his voice quiet, as if to himself. I looked at him, surprised, and at his hand at the edge of the board. "What is the opposite of losing?" I asked him. "Finding," he said. And so it began. The next morning it snowed unexpectedly. Huge flakes hung suspended in a yellow-gray haze, revealing the air, its density, and also gravity, as tumbling slowly and then for a moment resisting, they were pulled inexorably down. The leaves of late fall mingled with the snow of oncoming winter as I crossed the yard holding the university buildings apart, each building standing alone, discreet. This was Puritan New England. No touching, no leaning on one another. It was more or less how I'd been living since Simon was killed, my husband shot by my half-brother. I stared at the buildings, stony like Anton's face, memory rising, anger propelling me through the iron gates and out onto Quincy Street. The morning traffic was stalled, drivers peering through half-moons of windshield, marooned in their iron shells. I threaded my way between the cars, crossed Broadway, and headed for the concrete overhang of the design school, my wet footsteps trailing me up the stairs to my office, where the phone was ringing. "I found you," the voice triumphant. It took me a moment. "My chess partner," I said, dropping my keys on the desk, my bag puddling on the floor beside me. Wasn't he going to Chicago? We had left Felicia's together, he saying he wanted to walk, his legs still stiff from the overseas flight. He wanted to know how I knew Felicia. He wanted to know what I was doing. I told him I was an architect, working on a project to design a new city, on a small scale, on an island. It was something of an experiment, I said. He was trying to do operas in a new way, also on a small scale. He had trained as a conductor, was working mostly now as a director. The light faded across the river. The traffic picked up, people returning after the long weekend. We went into Harvard Square looking for coffee. Not much was open. We settled into the bar at Casablanca, at a table in the far corner, relieved to be out of the dankness that had set in with the end of the day. We talked about our work, how we each were trying in our own way, he with operas, I with cities, to wrest a tradition into the unexpected, so people would actually see what they were seeing, hear what they were hearing. The island, Nashawena, off the coast of Massachusetts, was the site of my project. Richard Livingston, whose family owned it, had been taken by the idea that the structures people live in shape their lives. Andreas's face lit up, his dark hair and black sweater accentuating the color in his cheeks. I couldn't quite place him. Felicia was Viennese. He said he was Hungarian. Someone from the lyric opera had seen his production of Lulu in London, and he was on his way now to Chicago to meet with their board. A loud noise from the kitchen. I jumped. I felt him watching me, puzzled. I looked around. No one seemed perturbed. I told him I had been born on Cyprus, and except for university, had lived there until the summer of '75. I left at the beginning of the Civil War, I said, if such a term makes sense. He raised his eyebrows. It doesn't, he said. He knew about war, he said. Suddenly it was late. We ordered steak sandwiches from the bar menu. Finally I said, I really have to go. I stood up and reached for my coat. He stood as well. It's been... I began. Our eyes met. Let's leave it there, he said softly, his long face creasing into a smile, then shadowed by a look of concern. I'll be fine, I said. He didn't know that a woman professor had been murdered in Longfellow Park, a few blocks away, or that a graduate student in anthropology was killed just around the corner, in her apartment on Mount Auburn Street, red ochre on her body suggesting a rich...